Hey, welcome back to the second essential movie that you should be watching. Today we're going over The General from 1926. I want to apologize for not having a frame for this yet. Thanksgiving week has been a lot busier than I expected, and I have not gotten a chance to go out there yet. But let me tell you a little bit about our movie, The General. This 1926 and or 1927 film, we'll go over that in just a minute, is called The General. It's a silent film starring Buster Keaton, which is an adaptation of an 1889 memoir called The Great Locomotive Chase. Now, the reason I had said either 1926 or 1927 is there were two release dates for this. One was December 31st, 1926 in Tokyo, and then the New York City release was February 5th, 1927. Now, I don't know what was going on that Tokyo got the release before we did on it. If any of you know what was going on in the movie world back in 1926, please comment below and let me know. This movie originally ran for 75 minutes. Of course, now with the different versions, it varies a little bit, and it was shown on 8 reels. It had a budget of $750,000 at the time. I don't know what that converts to in today's money. I know that the box office draw was only $1 million. And I say only $1 million because that plays a pretty big part in what happens to Buster Keaton Productions after this film. During its release in 27, because I'm assuming we're going to be talking about New York now, it did not have a very good review. It didn't do too well. Only making $250,000 more than it cost, roughly, was not a significant income that the production company wanted for it. Because of that, even though it made money just not enough, Buster Keaton lost his independence as a filmmaker and had to sign with MGM after this. I don't necessarily know if that's fair. He made a profit of $250,000. I guess they were just expecting more for a $750,000 investment. I definitely think Buster got railroaded on this one. I apologize. I would like to apologize for for enjoying jokes like that. If you don't like them, you should probably unfollow now, because I'm sure maybe there's going to be more in this video, but I can guarantee you there are going to be puns and terrible jokes like that in the rest of this series. And if you're here for it and if you like it, I love you that much more. It's so good, I almost want to say it again. All right. In 1954, this movie became public domain. When time came to renew the licensing on it, they passed. I guess it still hadn't picked up the following that it will come to get in the future at the time. Since then, it's been reevaluated and is often ranked amongst the greatest American films ever made. It's really interesting to me how a movie during its release can just get a subpar rating, only make $250,000, but jump ahead 60, 70, 80 years, and it's being revered for being culturally, historically, and aesthetically significant to the time. I'm curious if there's a part of that of just modern day people wanting to add value to older things to keep them around, or maybe it's that hipster-esque mentality to rant and rave about a movie people probably haven't seen and make yourself seem better about liking it, if that makes sense. And now, as my friends at Movie Dumpster would say, here's the plot crunch of the movie. Our movie takes place with our main character, Johnnie Gray, who is played by Buster Keaton, and it is described through a narrative that he only has 2 loves in his life: his fiancée, Annabelle Lee, and his train, the General. This is where we find out that Johnny is an engineer, a conductor of his very own train called the General. On a trip to go visit Annabelle Lee, the Civil War breaks out. When we get the news that war has broken out, Annabelle's brother and father run out to enlist in the war, to fight for their side. Annabelle asks Johnny if he's enlisting, and he runs out the door. He wants to make his fiancée proud. He even takes a few shortcuts, and he is first in line to enlist. He gives his name, his occupation, and they reject him. Now, they don't tell him that the reason he's being rejected is he is more important as a conductor, as an engineer, than as a soldier. So without that knowledge, he tries a couple of sneaky things to get back in. He gets back in line and covers his face. He tries stealing somebody else's slip, all to no avail. He's eventually let go. Annabelle's father and brother come back and tell Annabelle that they are in and they are enlisted, but that it looks like Johnny didn't even try, and there's a little bit of miscommunication here. She confronts Johnny about not enlisting, and because he doesn't know at the time why he was rejected, he doesn't know what to say. And she tells him, "I don't want to talk to you again until you are in uniform," which I think is a pretty unjust, unfair. I'm trying to think of words that I can say that really show how I feel about that action. But she said what she said, and they part ways. We now jump ahead 1 year later.
1 year later.
Annabelle finds out that her father was wounded in war. She hops on a train to go visit him, and as luck would have it, it turns out that the train she gets on is the one and only the General. It's around this time that we find out there are spies on the train that have dastardly plans for this war. Not only do they steal the train, they accidentally steal Annabelle. When Johnny finds out that his train has been stolen, he tells the soldiers what has happened. They all hop on a train, and Johnny takes off, of course, without the pin connecting the car with the soldiers, so it's just the main locomotive chasing down the General. Comedy ensues during this chase scene. I don't want to give anything away, but let's just say Johnny goes through 3 or 4 different vehicles trying to catch his train. By the time nightfall comes and Johnny finds where his train is, he is exhausted, he is hungry, he is beat. He climbs through the window of a nearby building, hoping to get some food and shelter, before realizing he broke into the headquarters of the enemy. While hiding and trying to avoid being noticed and captured, not only does he find out about the plans that the spies have, which is to destroy all of the bridges on the railroads so that no supplies can get back and forth, he also discovers that Annabelle has been kidnapped. So now he has to devise a plan not only to rescue his train, but to rescue his girl. The rest of the movie goes on to show how Johnny rescues not only his fiancée, but his train, and comes out the hero and saves the day for everybody. Happy ending, everybody rejoices, the end. Final thoughts on the General. I definitely found it enjoyable. It was a much easier watch than Intolerance, both being from the silent film era. This one was definitely more fast-paced. I was interested right off the bat. It kept my attention. I don't know if there was anything about this that I felt made it super influential. I don't know why this was picked over, let's say, The Great Dictator by Charlie Chaplin, which I don't think is on the list. If I see it on the list after this, I'm gonna kick myself. But yeah, I don't know what about this was super significant, and maybe because I just don't know what was going on in 1926, or at what point this was put on that list or inducted into the National Film Registry. I definitely think it was a good film. If you like Buster Keaton, if you like old silent film, old comedies, definitely check it out. I don't know if it was essential, but I am glad that I watched it. And now it's time for my favorite part of the series. We get to scratch off another movie. And now my favorite part of this series. We get to scratch off movie number 2. You guys ready? And we get to scratch off the General now. I'm always surprised and excited to see what picture is underneath. This is actually a scene from the movie. If you've seen it, you know what one I'm talking about. So now we get 2 out of 100, only 98 left to go. I'm going to be watching 1931 City Lights with Charlie Chaplin for the next movie. I will see you guys next Tuesday. Later days.